Okay, guys, we got a second example for finding the zeros of a polynomial function. Remember, you can just go straight to your calculator for these. You're just going to do a couple of quick things on this calculator and then do your synthetic division. When you go to your calculator, you do y equals, you plug in your 4x to the fourth minus 3x squared plus the x. And then, what am I thinking? I am thinking, oh, you go and look at your graph real quick, and then you also go to your table, and from your table you get a -1 and a 0 at your 0. Okay. You maybe hopefully kind of saw that you were going to get this 0 equals 0 right here. Simply because if you looked, each term has an x, and you could have factored out an x from it and rewritten it as x times 4x to the third minus 3x plus a 1. If you didn't catch that, that's okay. Apparently it's not. Well, all right, well, let's just erase that. Again, because you really just have to worry about your synthetic division. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to do the -1 first. Please make sure to put a placeholder, 4x to the fourth, 0x cubed, -3x squared plus 1. Okay? And so you bring down your 4. -1 times the 4 is a -4. Bring that down. You're adding that column. I'm sorry, you're not just bringing it down. You're adding the 0 and the -4. You get a +4 here, right? And a 4 plus a -3 is a +1. When I do the whole lovely multiply, -1 times a +1, I get a -1 there. And there's my remainder of 0. And then I can synthetically divide again, just right in the next row. And so what's going to end up happening is, I'm going to move a little bit of that stuff up there, sorry. I will get the same thing. I do the same process, I should say. Bring down my 4, and I do 0 times 4, -0. And then I add -4 and 0 to get -4. And then I do 0 times a -4, and I get a 0 again. Bring down my 1, 0 times a 1, I get a 0. And then I get a 0 for my remainder. And I was expecting that to happen because, remember, when you have the number 0 as a 0, it kind of doesn't change anything for you. But you are still synthetically dividing, so you went from an x to the fourth in the first row to an x to the third here, and then you went to an x squared there. So that last row is x squared. So you can actually rewrite it 4x squared minus a 4x plus a 1 equals a 0. Okay? And remember, you can try to figure out if you can factor it. Chances are it's not going to be factorable because you're going to get a radical as far as part of your answer. So really what you can do is, we'll go with red, x equals, do your quadratic formula, right? The opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared. Please be careful when you are squaring this. Oop, -4 quantity squared minus 4 times a 1. Oops, 4 times a times c, I should say. I'm doing 4 times c times a, but that's all right. Okay? And then that's all over 2 times a, or 2 times 4. So x equals a 4 plus or minus the square root of, underneath, oh my goodness. This is really too much information at this point right now, but one of my dogs is sitting there at my feet, and she is happily sharing gas that she's got from her breakfast this morning. So that's just great. Be happy that there's no like smell-o-vision on these videos. Sorry. Oh God. If I don't make it back into school, you know why. Her gas has just knocked me out, and I'm lying unconscious on the floor. All right, so underneath the square root, we have 16 minus, oh, that's 16 minus a 16, so that's going to give me 0. And then I have 2 times 4 is 8. So this is x equals 4 over 8. You don't have to worry about the whole plus minus 0 thing, so you really just get a half. So there's our half. So we actually have 1, 2, 3 zeros, and ultimately if you go back to look at your graph, and I don't have the picture for it, so you'll have to go and look at it, but if you go back to look at your graph, at -1, your graph crosses straight through, so that's a multiplicity of 1, but at 0, it looks like, and let me zoom in real quick, it looks like then it crosses at -1, it comes back up, it's at 1/2. Good thing I zoomed in, because at 0, it crosses straight through, and then at 1/2 is where you get your multiplicity of 2, and actually that makes more sense. I'm gonna blame it on the fact that my my eyes are watering. Oh, this poor dog. I swear she has a healthy. She eats very healthy. It's just woo. And again, sorry about the TMI and the rambling, but hey, I did another problem for you, so stop complaining. Sorry, just realized that that's multiplicity of 2. I wrote MULT. That's multiplicity of 2, which makes sense because look, we found the 1/2 from that quadratic. There we go. Now I finished my thought.